You were not supposed to see this today. Not tomorrow. Not next week. Today. Because if you had opened this message even a few hours later, you might have ignored something that thousands of people overlook every single day. Imagine checking your phone and discovering that an unknown person has sent you money. No name you recognize. No explanation. No warning. Just a notification that makes absolutely no sense. Most people would think it was a mistake. Some would ignore it. Others would become suspicious. But what if I told you that this strange payment is not really about the money? What if it is the beginning of a mystery that will completely change the way you see your own life? Stay until the end, because every piece of this story connects together like a puzzle, and the final piece is the one almost nobody expects. Long before today, people believed that every unexpected event carried a hidden message. Not magic. Not superstition. A test. A decision. An invitation to pay attention. Our story begins with someone just like you. A completely ordinary person. Nothing unusual had happened for weeks. Life felt repetitive. Wake up. Work. Eat. Sleep. Repeat. Until one quiet afternoon, a notification appeared. Money received. The amount wasn't enormous. It wasn't tiny either. Just enough to make someone stop and stare at the screen. The sender's name? Unknown. No profile picture. No message. No clue. Confusion quickly turned into curiosity. Why would anyone send money to a stranger? A mistake? Maybe. But then something even stranger happened. The sender never requested the money back. Hours passed. Nothing. A full day passed. Still nothing. No calls. No emails. No complaints. Only silence. That silence became louder than any explanation. The receiver couldn't stop thinking about it. Who was this person? Why me? What if this wasn't an accident? Questions multiplied. Answers disappeared. Then another notification arrived. Not another payment. Just one sentence. Use it wisely. That's all. No signature. No explanation. Just 4 words. Use it wisely. Now imagine being in that situation. Your heart would race. Your mind would create hundreds of possibilities. Was someone watching? Was this connected to the past? Or was it the beginning of something much bigger? Days later, the mystery grew deeper. The receiver noticed something unusual. Small decisions started producing enormous results. A conversation they almost skipped led to an incredible opportunity. A road they almost avoided introduced them to someone who would later change their future. A random invitation became the doorway to an unforgettable experience. Coincidence? Maybe. But when coincidences happen over and over again, people start calling them something else. Patterns. The mysterious payment became impossible to forget. Every time life seemed ready to fall apart, Something unexpected happened. Help appeared. Doors opened. Solutions arrived from impossible places. It was almost as though that first mysterious payment had forced the receiver to look at life differently. Instead of focusing on fear, they began noticing possibilities. And that changed everything. Here's something fascinating. Most people spend years waiting for one giant miracle. But real turning points often arrive disguised as tiny events nobody pays attention to. A message. A meeting. A phone call. A forgotten photograph. A stranger's smile. Or a mysterious payment. The receiver became obsessed with finding the sender. Bank records revealed nothing. Customer support couldn't identify the person. Every attempt reached another dead end. It was as though the sender existed only long enough to complete one mission, then disappeared. Weeks turned into months. Life improved. Not because money solves every problem, but because hope changes the decisions people make. Hope creates confidence. Confidence creates action. Action creates opportunities. And opportunities create completely different lives. One evening, while cleaning an old drawer, the receiver found something unexpected. A handwritten note from years earlier. Inside was a sentence that had almost been forgotten. When help arrives from unexpected places, don't waste it. The note had been written by someone very important who had passed away years before. Suddenly, the mysterious payment felt different. Not supernatural. Not impossible. Just deeply meaningful. Sometimes life reminds us of forgotten lessons in extraordinary ways. The receiver realized something. The amount of money itself had never been the real gift. The real gift was attention. Awareness. The reminder that life can change in a single unexpected moment. After that realization, the receiver decided to do something unusual. Instead of keeping every cent, part of the money was used to help someone else. Not because anyone demanded it. Because it felt right. That decision started another chain reaction. The person who received help later introduced the receiver to someone who offered a career opportunity they had dreamed about for years. Again, a tiny action. An enormous consequence. This is why stories like this continue to fascinate people. Because every life contains invisible turning points. Moments that seem meaningless until years later. Think about your own journey. How many people entered your life unexpectedly? How many small decisions changed everything? How many opportunities almost disappeared because you nearly ignored them? The receiver eventually stopped searching for the stranger. Instead, they started becoming the stranger. Quietly helping people without expecting recognition. Paying for someone's meal. Buying school supplies for a child. Supporting someone during their hardest week. Never asking for applause. Never posting about it. Just helping. Years later, another strange notification appeared. Money received. Again. Different amount. Different sender. Different account. No explanation. Only one message. You understood. The receiver smiled. Not because of the money. Because they finally understood what had been happening all along. Sometimes the greatest gifts aren't measured by the amount received. They're measured by the person you become after receiving them. And that's the real mystery. Not who sent the payment, but why one unexpected moment completely transformed an ordinary life. Now ask yourself one question. If an unexpected opportunity arrived tomorrow, would you recognize it? Or would you dismiss it as another ordinary notification? Because life rarely announces its biggest turning points with fireworks. Sometimes they arrive quietly, with a simple sound, a phone vibration, a notification, a moment that looks completely ordinary. Until years later, when you realize it changed everything. The next morning felt different. Nothing dramatic happened at first. No flashing signs. No mysterious voices. No impossible miracles. Just an unusual feeling that someone, somewhere, had carefully placed the first domino, and now the rest were beginning to fall. The receiver couldn't shake the thought from their mind. Why did the second payment arrive only after they had helped someone else? Was it a coincidence? Or had someone been quietly watching every decision they made? That question became impossible to ignore. Instead of chasing the stranger, the receiver started tracing every event that had happened since the first notification. A notebook appeared on the kitchen table. Every phone call was written down. Every unexpected meeting. Every chance encounter. Every unusual dream. Every coincidence. At first, the pages looked meaningless. Random dates. Random names. Random places. But after several days, a pattern emerged. Every important event happened after one simple choice. Choosing kindness over anger. Choosing patience over frustration. Choosing courage over fear. It was as if life itself rewarded every decision that moved the receiver forward instead of backward. One rainy evening, while leaving work later than usual, something unexpected happened. A wallet lay abandoned near the entrance. Inside was cash. Identification. Credit cards. Everything. For a brief moment, a thought crossed the receiver's mind. No one saw me. It would have been easy. Nobody would know. But then another thought appeared. What if this is another test? Without hesitation, the wallet was returned. The owner was speechless. He had searched everywhere. He had already accepted that everything was gone. Tears filled his eyes as he thanked the receiver. Before leaving, he said something strange. "You have no idea how much this means today." The receiver smiled politely and walked away. Only later did they learn the truth. The wallet belonged to the director of a company that had been searching for someone with exactly the receiver's skills. Weeks later, a phone call came. An interview. Then another. Finally, an offer. Better salary. Better opportunities. A future that had seemed impossible only months earlier. Again, it all traced back to one small decision. The notebook gained another page. Never underestimate a moment that seems too small to matter. As life improved, friends began asking the same question. How are you getting so lucky? The receiver laughed. Luck? Maybe. But luck often visits people who keep moving when everyone else gives up. One evening, curiosity returned. The mysterious payment still had no explanation. The receiver visited the bank one last time. A senior employee reviewed every transaction carefully. He frowned. Checked again. Then looked up with genuine confusion. I've worked here for 28 years. I've never seen anything like this. The receiver leaned forward. What do you mean? The employee pointed toward the screen. The account that sent the money doesn't exist anymore. What happened to it? It was closed years before your first payment. Silence filled the room. Neither person knew what to say. The employee cleared his throat. There must be some technical explanation. Maybe. But no explanation ever came. The mystery remained. Instead of becoming afraid, the receiver felt something unexpected. Gratitude. Not for the unanswered questions. For the life that had changed because one unanswered question forced them to pay closer attention. Months passed. The notebook became thicker. One page described the stranger who smiled at a bus stop just before introducing the receiver to a lifelong friend. Another page described the delayed train that accidentally prevented the receiver from being involved in a serious accident farther down the route. Another page described a cancelled meeting that opened time for an opportunity worth far more than the original appointment. Piece after piece. The story became impossible to ignore. The receiver reached one powerful conclusion. Life isn't always changed by giant events. Sometimes it changes because we notice the tiny ones. Then came the night that answered almost everything. Unable to sleep, the receiver opened the notebook and read every page from beginning to end. As dawn approached, one realization struck like lightning. The mysterious payments had never appeared when life was going well. They had arrived exactly when hope was running out. The first came after weeks of discouragement. The second came after choosing generosity. Both appeared at moments when giving up would have been the easiest option. The receiver closed the notebook and whispered softly. It was never about the money. It was about reminding me not to quit. That single sentence changed everything. From that day forward, every obstacle looked different. Every delay became a lesson. Every disappointment became temporary. Every setback became another chapter instead of the ending. Years later, the receiver quietly started an anonymous tradition. Whenever someone looked defeated, whenever someone had lost hope, whenever someone seemed one step away from giving up, a small amount of money would appear in their account. No explanation. No name. Only one message. Use it wisely. Most ignored it. Some laughed. A few became curious. But every once in a while, someone understood. Someone chose hope over fear. Someone decided to help another person. And each time that happened, the invisible chain continued. One act of kindness became 2. 2 became 10. 10 became hundreds. Hundreds became thousands. No headlines ever reported it. No cameras captured it. No one knew where it truly began. But lives kept changing. Quietly. One notification at a time. And somewhere tonight, someone is staring at their phone with the exact same expression the receiver once had. Confused. Curious. Unsure. Wondering why a stranger has sent them money. Completely unaware that the greatest gift waiting for them isn't sitting inside their bank account. It's the decision they are about to make next. The story should have ended there. A mysterious payment. A changed life. A lesson learned. But the truth is, that was only the beginning. Because nearly 3 years after the first unexpected notification, something happened that no one could have predicted. The receiver woke up before sunrise for no particular reason. The room was completely silent. No alarms. No messages. No calls. Yet something felt different. Almost as if the day had been quietly waiting for this exact moment. The phone buzzed. Not once. Twice. 3 times. 3 separate deposits. 3 different amounts. 3 different sender IDs. Every single one carried the exact same message. Today is your turn. The receiver froze. There was no fear anymore. Only curiosity. Whoever had been behind this knew something. Something important. Within an hour, another notification appeared. Not from the bank. From an email address that had never contacted the receiver before. The subject line read, "Do not ignore today's invitation." Inside the email was only an address and a time. No explanation. No signature. Most people would have deleted it immediately. But after everything that had happened, ignoring it felt impossible. The receiver arrived at the location 15 minutes early. It wasn't a mansion. It wasn't a secret office. It was an old community center that looked almost forgotten. People of every age were quietly entering. Young professionals. Retired teachers. Single parents. Business owners. Students. None of them seemed to know each other. Yet every face carried the same expression. Confusion. Inside the hall stood a simple wooden podium. No decorations. No banners. Just one elderly man waiting patiently. When everyone had taken a seat, he smiled. "I know why you're here," he said. The room became completely silent. You all received something unexpected. Heads slowly nodded. Some of you received money. Some received help. Some received a phone call that saved your life. Some met a stranger who changed your future. The receiver felt a chill. How could he possibly know? The elderly man continued. For years, each of you searched for the person responsible. You searched banks. You searched records. You searched names. And you found nothing. He paused. Because you were searching for the wrong thing. People leaned forward. You believed the mystery was the sender. But the real mystery was the chain. A projector illuminated the wall behind him. One by one, anonymous stories appeared. A woman who had received help buying medicine later became a doctor serving thousands. A teenager who had been given bus fare eventually founded a scholarship program. A man whose rent had been paid anonymously later created jobs for hundreds of families. Different people. Different cities. Different backgrounds. Yet every story began the same way. Someone unexpected helped them. When they needed it most. The elderly man smiled again. You think you received money. In reality, you received responsibility. The room fell silent. He explained that every person there had unknowingly continued the chain. Not because they had to. Because gratitude naturally became generosity. Every act inspired another. Every kindness multiplied. No one controlled it. No organization owned it. It simply kept growing. Then he asked everyone a question. Who remembers the exact amount they first received? People looked at each other. Surprisingly, almost nobody did. The receiver couldn't remember either. The amount had become meaningless. Only the moment remained unforgettable. The elderly man nodded. Exactly. If you remembered only the money, the chain would have ended. But you remembered how it made you feel. And feelings travel farther than numbers. For the first time, the receiver understood why no explanation had ever arrived. Some lessons lose their power once they're fully explained. Mystery forces people to search. Searching changes people. Changing people changes lives. Before the gathering ended, everyone received a small envelope. Inside was a blank card. No instructions. Just empty space. The elderly man spoke one final time. Write one sentence. Not about what you received. Write about what you became. The receiver stared at the blank card for several minutes. Then slowly wrote. I stopped waiting for miracles and started becoming one. When everyone finished, the cards were collected without names. No applause followed. No photographs. No certificates. People quietly walked away. Outside, the receiver noticed something remarkable. No one rushed to leave. Strangers were holding doors open for one another. Helping elderly visitors down the steps. Sharing umbrellas in the rain. Offering rides to people they had never met. The chain was already continuing. Without anyone saying a word. As the receiver reached home that evening, another notification appeared. This time, there was no money. Only a single message. You no longer need proof. The receiver smiled. It was true. There was nothing left to prove. Whether the first payment had been planned by one person, a group of strangers, or a coincidence that inspired thousands, It no longer mattered. Because the greatest transformation had happened inside. Years passed. The notebook remained on the same shelf. Its pages had faded. Its corners had worn down. But every entry still carried the same reminder. Small moments create enormous futures. One quiet afternoon, while standing in line at a grocery store, the receiver noticed a young man staring anxiously at the payment terminal. His card had been declined. Again. People behind him sighed impatiently. He looked embarrassed. Ready to leave. Without hesitation, the receiver stepped forward and quietly paid the bill. The young man turned around, overwhelmed. "Please, tell me your name," he asked. The receiver simply smiled. "You don't need my name. You just need to remember this moment." Then the receiver walked away. As the automatic doors opened, the phone vibrated one last time. There was no deposit. No message. No mysterious sender. Only the reflection of a person who finally understood that the greatest wealth was never what appeared in a bank account. It was the ability to become the unexpected blessing in someone else's ordinary day. And somewhere, perhaps at this very moment, someone else is looking down at a phone screen, wondering why a stranger has just sent them money. They think they're receiving a payment. They don't yet realize they're receiving the first page of a story that could change the rest of their life.